welcome to the Flourishing Center podcast. I'm Emilia Zhivatovskaya, your host and founder of the Flourishing Center. We are training the change agents of the world and equipping them with research-based tools for healthy, happy, and successful living, and we're so grateful that you're here. Each episode features 3 sections. First is the Science Says section, where we summarize a recent research study and show you how to put the science into action. Next, we give you a research-based life hack with simple strategies for incorporating positive psychology into your life for greater well-being. And then our Practitioner Corner is where we interview someone who's out there living, breathing, and spreading positive psychology in their own unique way. Learn about how they're growing their personal and professional work and get inspired with strategies for how you might use positive psychology in your own life. Thanks for listening, and let's dive in. In today's Science Says, learn about trait emotional intelligence and what people who score high on trait emotional intelligence do differently. In our life hack, learn how to further develop your own emotional intelligence and the emotional intelligence of those around you. And tune in for our Practitioner Corner as we take a deep dive into the life of an executive coach and how she puts positive psychology into practice with her clients. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. Today we're exploring why people who are high in emotional intelligence are happier. That's the title of a new article published in the Journal of Personality and Individual Differences, published in 2017. This article, titled "Why Are People High in Emotional Intelligence Happier? They Make the Most of Their Positive Emotions." This is an article that is layering upon many years of research in emotional intelligence and giving us another piece of the puzzle as to why this particular approach to our well-being makes the type of impact that it does. We know that people who score high in emotional intelligence tend to report greater levels of life satisfaction and higher subjective well-being. This study aimed to find out why might that be the case. What they found in their research of 254 undergraduate students was that those who scored high in emotional intelligence tended to be more likely to both savor their positive emotions, what they called upregulating their positive emotions, being able to prolong and enhance them, as well as downregulating, or what they call stifling and dampening their negative emotions. And on the other hand, when it came to negative emotions, people who score high in emotional intelligence tend to be better able to downregulate those negative emotions or dampen them, or what they sometimes call stifling of negative emotions. This is really important because it suggests that emotional intelligence enables us to choose how we want to feel. And in fact, the definition of emotional intelligence refers to an individual's ability to perceive, use, understand, and regulate emotion within oneself and others. My buzzword for what emotional intelligence is the 3 N's. Emotional intelligence enables you to notice, name, and navigate emotions. What this research study has now contributed to the research literature is to show that perhaps the mediator between why people who score high on trait emotional intelligence tend to have greater life satisfaction and greater subjective happiness is that they have an increase to their ability to savor positive emotions and a decrease in the dampening of their positive emotions. I think it's interesting that they're looking at positive emotions in general, because oftentimes what happens is when we have the opportunity to experience positive emotions, many times we sometimes dampen them, or we shut down our ability to experience that positive emotions. But it indicates here that perhaps people who score high in emotional intelligence let themselves feel the positive emotions that they might otherwise push down or hold themselves back from feeling. Next up, we have life hacks. Today's life hack is all about how to build emotional intelligence, both in yourself and with others. In particular, we'll look at how to build emotional intelligence with children. Emotional intelligence is defined as an individual's ability to perceive, use, understand, and regulate emotion within oneself and others. We simplify this model to say, can you notice, name, and navigate emotions within yourself and within others? Can you gear shift between the emotion that you're feeling to the emotion that you want to be feeling? For example, if I'm at work and I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by my workload, do I continue to just reactively feel overwhelmed? Or can I shift my gear and shift into a different emotional state that I would prefer to feel instead? Maybe I can shift myself into feeling focused, or maybe I can shift myself into a place of steadiness and trust and belief that everything will work out. The key to being able to regulate how I feel, I first need to be able to understand how I feel. Noticing how I feel, noticing how that emotion shows up in my body, and being able to name it, because sometimes I'm feeling overwhelmed, other times I'm feeling anxious, other times I might be feeling frustrated, and other times I might feel lost. And all of those might have similar types of experiences in my body, but they're ever so subtly different. And the better I can understand what I'm truly feeling by naming it, the better able I will be to regulate it. And unfortunately, part of what it means to be human is that we often experience multiple emotions at the same time, and sometimes those emotions can coexist as what seems like opposites. Joy and grief can coexist. And so part of what it means to build our emotional intelligence is just to be able to notice those emotions around us. We can help other people build their emotional intelligence as well. We can ask them to tune into themselves. You can ask somebody, what do you need? What's coming up for you right now? How do you feel? With children, we can also help them build more words around emotions. This is a powerful skill for anybody at any age, but I highly recommend sitting down and writing down as many emotion words as you can think of. And then also look up emotion words on a Google search. Read through the words to familiarize yourself with the wide variety of emotions that we can experience as human beings. Indeed, one of the main things that separates us from other animals in our animal kingdom is that human animals have the ability to regulate their emotions. We have the ability to feel a particular emotion that we want to feel, whereas other animals tend to feel more reflectively. They tend to feel what they're feeling based on what's happening around them. Because we human beings have the benefit of our neocortex, our new brain, we can actually circumvent some of our systems, and we can actually choose what emotion we want to feel. Again, before we can do that, you have to notice how you feel. You notice the emotion, name it, and then ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And what would need to happen in order for me to feel the way I want to feel right now? Next up, listen to Positive Psychology in Action with our Practitioner Corner. Hello, everyone, and join me in welcoming Lisa Jacobson. She is a career consultant and leadership coach, and she is incredibly unique in so many ways, and one of which is that she holds both a master's degree in applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania, and she's also a graduate of our certification in applied positive psychology program here at the Flourishing Center. And we're so excited to have Lisa with us and learn about how she's been applying positive psychology. She is an individualizer in our 5I model, meaning that she uses positive psychology on a one-on-one basis with helping people figure out where are they and where do they want to go in their life.
Well, I was a practicing human resources consultant, an internal consultant with Verizon, and I felt as though I reached a plateau in terms of how I could help people in the workplace. I really felt as though I needed more knowledge about what works well in the workplace. And so that's what led me to the Master's of Applied Positive Psychology at the University of Pennsylvania.
Beautiful. And then what brought you to the CAP program as well?
Well, the CAP program was very interesting to me because I was in the same MAP program as one of the co-founders. And I felt after several years of practicing positive psychology, I needed a refresher course. And I thought this was one way to find out what's some of the newer research out there and how could I use the existing research in new and different ways.
So tell us, Lisa, how are you using positive psychology personally and professionally?
in my coaching practice, it's a very much a full practice. There are probably 4 different ways in which I practice positive psychology on a full-time basis. The first one is in Tampa, Florida. I actually have a clientele of young people who are about to graduate college and are undecided about their, what they want to do with the degree that they've been earning. And then also some people in the Southeast United States who are currently in the workplace and they want to maybe make a pivot and change directions in their career for many reasons. It varies considerably. And then I have my executive coaching practice, and what I do in that is there are some firms in the Southeast, businesses, a couple of construction companies that I work with, a research company that I work with, and some healthcare organizations. And I go into their workplaces. I'm hired usually by the CEO of the company to work with their leaders who have a lot of potential. And I walk them through a leadership development program. And then finally, what I've added just recently, and I really love it, I didn't know what I was going to think, is I actually contract as a 1099 for a coaching organization called Better Up.
Wow, that is so cool, Lisa. I love the variety of experiences that you get to have and the work that you're doing with people being in such different places of their life as they're working with you. What are some of the ways in which you find yourself integrating positive psychology as you do this one-on-one work?
Yeah, positive psychology is actually my absolute guiding post for just about any activity that I do with clients. So on a basic level, let's say that I'm working with someone about career decisions. The first thing is to guide that person to clarify their goals and to list those goals, and then to agree that they're going to be accountable for those goals, and also that I agree to help them become accountable to those goals, and for the goals to be specific and for them to be measurable, for them to have an idea of what a good outcome might be. So that would be like step number 1 in just, career exploration. There are probably 36 different activities I work with. I use from CAP or positive psychology that are positive things that tap into a person's strengths to create a greater awareness of what those strengths are, and then to apply those strengths in new and different ways. And I'd like to say that probably one of the most fundamental and most effective methods that I use is the My Best Moment method. And I usually establish that early on in the relationship. I do that because I find that when you ask someone about a best moment in their life, it's a bonding experience with them. So this establishes trust in a fairly quick way. And I share my own best story with them too. I usually have 2 versions, one that's, just kind of an everyday best moment. And then there's a deeper one that I share when I feel we, have established maybe greater intimacy. But this best moment story gives people a chance. It gives my clients an opportunity to reveal who they are, who they have been at their very best. It gives me the opportunity to listen for their strengths and to begin to appreciate what they're good at. And when we have this experience of back and forth, like when I tell them, I heard in this that you're a very creative person, and I saw a lot of curiosity in it as well, then they verify if what I heard was accurate or not. And this gets them thinking they've really never thought of before. And it just kind of opens the floodgates for ideas.
Wow. Thank you, Lisa. So I hear you saying that one of the pillars of your practice is focused on identifying and naming strengths, and that you are listening for your client's strengths as you're speaking with them, and that you're kind of like bringing them out within them as you're sharing, as you're listening to them speak about their goals, their dreams, their aspirations for themselves in life.
Yes, exactly, because I really don't know of any formal program or opportunity that people have to begin to find their voice. And by their voice, I mean to be able to answer the question, who am I? and why am I here, and how do I add value to my family, to my friends, to my organization, to my team? These are such important questions. And it mystifies me why the first time someone finds themselves answering these questions is often with the work that I do with them.
That's such a great point, Lisa, and that we can, as change agents ourselves, start to ask these questions of the people that we know, of the people that we care about, that people shouldn't have to wait until they're finding themselves in just a professional setting or a place of transition to start to recognize these things about themselves.
Sure. So I usually start out with a very lighthearted story of when I was in my early 50s. And I think it's important to note that because I work with a lot of people who are age 50 plus, and I really try to live out the fact from what we know about change and adult development in positive psychology that we continue to learn and grow, and that improves the quality of our lives. So one of my best moments was when I started to do more exercise. And I actually kind of got that motivation from you because to me, when it comes to positive psychology, you represent the importance of the vitality that people have. And vitality becomes so much more important as you age. We take it for granted when we're younger. So with vitality in mind, I signed up at the local YMCA to take a body pump class. That's basically weightlifting to music. And it was down the street from where I work. So I would just run over and snag a class. And I'd often come to the class late, and I would often leave early because, I had appointments and people were paying me to be their coach, and I had a lot of work to do. I was building, my practice up. So I didn't take it very seriously, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and loved it. And one day I came in with flip-flops on. In fact, I call this my flip-flop story. They were probably into the third routine. The instructor stops the class and she says, "You can't stay in this class, Lisa, because you're not dressed appropriately. You need closed-toed shoes. We're dealing with weights here." And I said, "Well, if you don't mind, I'd just like to stay because I'm here already." And she left the room, and I thought everyone in the class, there were about 30 people in the class, I thought they would say, "Oh, Lisa, let Lisa stay." But no one defended me, and I was really embarrassed. And I realized at that moment that my late entrance to the class and my early departures were things that people kind of didn't like about me. They didn't come to my defense. So, and everyone was annoyed because I was holding up the class. So the manager of the YMCA came to the front door, and like a principal, he asked me to come to his office. And then he kind of told me about rules and regulations and safety. And I was humiliated for being called out. And I walked home, and something just came inside of me where I just said, I'm 50 years old and I can't just act like a little girl here and get angry and hide my head in a pillow. I have to buck up and get back to that class and apologize to the instructor for my lack of motivation and, tardiness and just not taking it seriously. So I did. I went back to the class. I finished the class with my shoes on. And then after the class, I walked up to the instructor and I told her that I apologized, and I said I learned a lesson. And the lesson was that I wasn't valuing her time as much as I valued my own, and I wasn't taking the class seriously, and that I would from hereafter. And she said, "Thank you." And from then on, I took it more seriously, in better shape for it too. But more importantly, I learned that I was disrespecting her because to me, honestly, and this is still hard for me to admit, I did not value her time as much as I valued my own.
And Lisa, firstly, I'm so grateful because I can tell you that I too am a body pump enthusiast, and I too have actually been that person who showed up in flip-flops. And and was like, what do you mean I can't do this class barefoot? I actually really prefer to squat and do things in like my barefoot running shoes anyway, and have also been told to leave the class until I am able to come in with sneakers, and find myself in that place too. So thank you so much for sharing that. The always in a hurry person within me bows to the always in a hurry person within you, and recognizes that we share this in common, along with a passion for this particular modality. And so as you share that story with your clients, what are some of the strengths that you highlight within yourself, or pieces of learning that you hope that they'll capture within that story?
Well, first of all, I hope they feel comfortable enough to admit that they're human. And even at whatever age, we still have things to learn. It's so important to even character strengths. So they often tell me that they hear the humility in having learned a lesson. And they also hear perseverance, in as much as that I didn't give up. I went back to the class. And they hear honesty and authenticity and bravery. Bravery is interesting because so many people think bravery has to do with a physical thing, but bravery, as we know from positive psychology, has to do with being brave enough to be honest with yourself and with other people.
And you said that that's the more surface level story. I know that we're just getting to know you, but what's the deeper story that you sometimes share with clients?
Well, the deeper story is a story of resilience, and it's one that I have come to really appreciate as I've told certain people. It seems as a coach that I really have my whole life together, and it appears as though sometimes people want to be like me. And I want to let them know that my journey has been a very long and painful journey with a lot of work involved and a lot of effort. So the story begins just when I was a child. I had a mother and a father, but my mother was mentally ill. She had severe psychosis and bipolar disorder. And she ended up having 4 children, and she was really unable to take care of her children. So I grew up in Philadelphia, actually, and we used to spend summers at the Jersey Shore. One summer, we were renting a house there, and school was starting. It was late August, and school was starting in September. And this is where my mother could really kind of relax, and it would be a vacation for her. Well, this particular summer, when I was 11 years old, we all got in the car to go back to Philadelphia, and everything was packed up, but my mother would not get in the car to come back to Philadelphia with us. I didn't quite understand it, but she was having yet another nervous breakdown. And she really just said, she came to the car and she said, I just can't do this anymore. And that was really a tough moment for us all to handle. My father had no choice but to drive us back to Philadelphia. School started and my mother never came home. That was September. And then in October, it was my birthday, and still Mom did not come home. November was Thanksgiving, no Mom. December was Christmas. Again, Mom. It seemed as though she was just not going to return. It seemed as though she decided she could not raise her 4 children. So in January, my father called his family in Tampa, Florida, and asked if they could help raise us. And we moved into a little 2-bedroom house with my great aunt, who I'd never met before. And we started our lives all over again. And needless to say, that was a very tough, bewildering time for me. And I just did what I had to do. I put one foot in front of the other to kind of get through it. The toughest part really was as a teenager growing up in a new environment. People would always ask, well, where's your mom? And I would say, she's very, very sick, and I don't think she's ever, coming here. That's like, she's terminally sick, I would say. I'd kind of make up stories as a kid. Then they found out basically that my mother was chronically mentally ill, and she gave us up to my dad. Kids make fun of stuff like that, and they think you're weird, and they don't want to be around you, and they think there's just something wrong with you and your family. A lot of judgment because of the stigma of mental illness. I grew up with some adversity that way, not having a mother, then it being kind of an illness that has a stigma, and then facing the fact that I was abandoned by my mother, and then being raised by a man and dealing with all that, going to high school and college and so forth. So I kind of just had to make my own way and make the best of the circumstances that I had. It wasn't easy, but I found my way forward and I did it. So that's my story.
It's an amazing thing to put the two strength stories together, because you can hear the honesty and the authenticity and the bravery that comes with both being honest with yourself and also the bravery to just do what needs to be done and putting one foot in front of the other, and stories of resilience like this one. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa.
You're welcome. Bottom line there is that I was very, very sad as a child. And I found that you can do things to make your life matter. You don't have to resign to what your life circumstances have given you. And that's what I've learned. Actually, my adulthood has been a lot happier than my childhood.
And what are some ways that you personally practice positive psychology in adulthood that give you that sense of happiness and well-being and life satisfaction?
Well, I practice mental hygiene. I think that's a term actually I got from you in the CAP course. So I start every day of my life quietly in meditation before I do anything. I practice meditation. I set intentions for the day, and it's usually 15 to 20 minutes of my practice and setting intentions. And then I routinely practice yoga twice or three times a week, and I exercise twice or three times a week as well. These things are absolutely staples in my life. I not only coach actively with the science of positive psychology being my primary toolbox, but I live it. I practice gratitude as well every day, and so does my husband. We've been doing that for 10 years now, sometimes more consistently than others. But before I open my computer and I check my email, I write down 3 things for which I am grateful, or 3 things that went well. Well, it sets the tone for the day for me. So with the gratitude, meditation, exercise, yoga, it all kind of comes together, right? There's a synergy there too. There's definitely a synergy. And let me tell you, Amelia, as you know, in studying for my master's, I couldn't sit still to meditate, for 3 minutes. It has taken me years to work up to the 20 minutes that I now do. So I tell people that because they think, oh, I just can't meditate, And I say, this is something for some people that takes years of practice.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely in the same boat as well. I can't tell you how many times I've been at it for over 14 conscious years, of when I first learned about meditation to getting to the point where I do it. I do it frequently, still not every day. And so one of the things that's helped me is reminding myself that what we do on the cushion is what we do off the cushion. And that on the cushion, your mind wanders and you come back, and your mind wanders and you come back. And what's most important is not that you have a clear mind, but that you keep coming back. And that's definitely helped me having some more compassion towards myself on days when I haven't been meditating. It's all about coming back.
That's probably the benefit of staying at it for 10 years, is that I am able through the course of the day to center myself on just in a matter of a second. I can go to that place. It's my reset button, and it's wonderful.
Beautiful. What have been some of the more powerful interventions and exercises that you've used with your clients as you've been sharing positive psychology with them?
At Better Up, I've found that people in the workplace are starving for things that they can use in the workplace to avoid, running down the hall and getting a Snickers bar or something, and because they're stressed out. A lot of us at work, we're stressed because we're stretched to reach our goals. And we can easily break down by, we can break down that self-discipline muscle we have. So it's important to set ourselves up for success. And one of the ways, we can do that is by being prepared, by planning in advance for, when things go wrong. So one of the things I love to do is kind of encourage people to figure out what works specifically for them when they're stressed out, to de-stress and to calm down and to not do something negative like go, for me, it used to be they used to have snack machines, and go to the snack machine and get a Snickers bar. There are a number of things you can do. And one of them is what I call a BMW. And that just means try breathing first. And we talk a lot about how breathing actually helps in conscious breathing helps, at least bring more oxygen to the brain. And, one of the first things that even physicians do is, when they're trying to figure out what's wrong with someone, is figure out how much oxygen do they have in their blood. It's a very important thing to understand that your bloodstream is getting oxygen. And the simplest, most fundamental way of doing that is to be conscious of your breathing and to do it more efficiently and effectively. And then the M stands for move. So if the breathing still makes you go have an urge for a Snickers bar, I say move, walk around the building, walk around the parking lot, the parking garage, but see if that can distract you. And then W is water, of course, hydrate. So drink a glass of water and see if that doesn't, if you've tried all three of those things and you still have this urge to, feed that stress with some kind of unhealthy habit, I guess, at least you've tried not to. That's one little intervention that I use in the workplace, because most of the time, no matter where anybody works, it's stress that's the biggest issue with them. Effectively dealing with stress, using stress in a positive way. So here's an example of using stress in a positive way. And this is another thing that I took away from studying with Lewis at CAP. And that is, instead of I have to do something, I get to do something.
Beautiful, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing some of these powerful interventions with us that you integrate into your work. And I'm curious if we could close our time off together with anything that you are really excited about within the field of positive psychology that you're reading or researching right now that's top of mind for you.
I think decision making is one of, it's a very common topic for positive psychology. People want to make better decisions. And what, we keep finding is that decisions are better made when you discuss them objectively, bringing that objective quality into them. And that's why, working with a coach, it doesn't have to be a coach, but, working with a coach or a mentor, someone just talking about, the steps of your decision making with someone has a positive impact on the change that you want to make in your life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for taking the time to share your expertise and your practice of positive psychology with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
And Lisa, if people wanted to find out more about your work, where could they find you?
They can Google Lisa Garcia Jacobson.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye.
Learn more about Lisa Jacobson's work at workplacesolutionstampa.com, including her interview boot camp, career services, and executive coaching. And speaking of interviews, check out our website, theflourishingcenter.com/5I model. That's the number 5, the letter I, and the word model. This is a questionnaire that we've established to help you figure out which of the 5 change agent types you fall into. And based on identifying what type of change agent you are in the world, let us help you identify your personalized roadmap for success in helping you spread positive psychology and the science of flourishing around the world. Visit our website, www.theflourishingcenter.com/application/5I model. That's 5 as in the number 5, the letter I, and model.